Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to learn how to make rods today for the hands. I talked about making rods when we were doing adding the rods to the hands, and I am now going to show you how to make these style of rods, except the end's going to be different than mine. I have a different method for the rod hookup, but you will have an exact idea basically how to make this rod. Okay? So let's get started. First you need dowels. These are approximately, they're very small is what they are. They should just fit comfortably into your hand. They're not very large, these ones, and I have drilled a hole in about the center of each one, as you can see. Okay? I made mistakes on this side, as you can see, but that doesn't matter. Once I dip them in, the stuff, which we'll talk about later, they'll be gone. So I have two holes drilled, just big enough to fit the piano wire inside. They are just fit snugly. There's no wiggle room at all, and I simply drill it in and then I spray paint them. These are pieces of dowel, wood dowel that you can buy at hardware stores. I've cut them about 4.5 inches approximately in height. You can give or take on that, but that's a pretty good height, height there. And you want to drill them in so the rod fits in, not too far, but far enough down that you can get a good grip and they won't fall apart. And this is called piano wire, which you can usually buy not at your music store, but you can buy it at hardware stores. And not hardware, what am I saying? Sorry, hobby shops where they sell remote control planes, which I talked about in the hand video. So basically where they sell remote control planes, cars, boats and all that is where you would buy this. They're about a couple bucks a rod. So basically, it's not a lot of money. You'll need two of them because they come in a standard size, and usually you don't have enough to make two unless you make the rods much shorter. So that's the other thing you need. You need some epoxy glue. You need one of these to cut the rods. It's a tool for cutting thick rods, chains, all that sort of stuff. Pair of pliers, measuring tape. You need this stuff, which covers. You can buy this in where they sell car stuff to fix cars. Yeah, heavy gauge metal cutters. That's right. And this is tubing. And it's called like shrink tubing. You can get it where they repair cars. And it fits over wiring usually, but you need it just big enough to fit your wire that you're using, the rod that you're using. Make sure it fits on. You need this crazy stuff called plastic dip in black, preferably. And the last thing you need is this tool, which is a heating gun. There we go. No, it's shrink wrap. So, there's all the tools that you need. I'm going to push most of them out to the side. What I've done is, like I said, drilled in the center as close as I can get. Spray painted these black. Now, you have an option. I mean, I spray paint them instead of leaving them wood. It just helps hide them if they do get exposed. And basically, what I do is use our trusty old epoxy, pour some out, roll the rod into it, and stick it right into the hole. No, I want this side. And I leave that glue overnight, at least 24 hours. Okay, and I do that for both of them, but I'm going to focus on one right now. So I put epoxy on the end of the rod right here, and I stick it in, and let it dry. Make sure there's a lot on there. If it goops out a bit, so be it. Not a big deal. Okay? Next, you're going to pull out, after this dries, and it's dried on really well, you're going to use your plastic dip in black. You can get it in spray or in dip. I like the dip personally, but you can buy the spray, which lasts longer, because this stuff dries out because you don't end up using it as quickly. But you can use the dip also for making noses for animals, black noses or whatever color. That comes in red, yellow, clear, and black, and white. And you can dip, if you cut things out of a stiffer foam, you can dip it in here and make a nose out of it. And use that. And anyways, you dip it just up to the edge of the handle. Right there. Just where the wood meets the pole, you dip it right up there. Just let it a little bit inside, up onto the rod, so you get a nice clean, get it all clean. Now you might have to dip it about 3 to 4 to 5 times and let it dry in between. Doesn't take too long to dry, not dry totally, but at least dry enough that you can dip it again and probably have most of the dipping done in one night. So you want that, and now you've dipped it, now it's glued, now it's dipped, and you've got most of your rod. Now this is 4.5 inches. On average, rods are about 23 inches in height from bottom to top. So pull out your trusty measuring, and you want it about 23 inches, maybe a bit more for any room for twisting it into the hand and that, but you don't want to go much longer than that. And then you're going to take your pliers, or your, not pliers, but your cutting, and cut it. As you can see, it's pretty hard to cut. Flies everywhere. There we go. So now I've cut it, and it is now 23 inches in length. And before you do anything else at this point, you can leave the rod without covering it with the black material. I like it. It just makes the, it gives, again, a professional look to your rod. But, and I would cover, I'm just showing you a little piece because I'm not making it tonight, but I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like on how to shrink wrap around the rod. And I'm just using a small piece. You would cover your entire rod except just after it enters the hand at the tip. Wherever you turn this around, you don't want it to go all the way. Okay? So you want it to be able to go all the way up. Like I said, not around where you attach it, just up high enough so it's hidden inside the hand. So you need to figure that out. So we're going to do that right now. So like I said, it's important to shrink wrap the rod before you continue on with doing anything else at the other end where there's no rod, because you need to get this on smoothly. You pull out your trusty old heat gun, and all my lights are flashing now because I have too much running in my room right now. And what I'm going to do is I set it, sometimes they're set for different heat. I have it about 950, and that's good enough. And you just slowly let it, I don't know if you can catch this on camera, but you could start seeing it shrink. And it's now starting to mold nicely. To the pole.